So now we're going to move with the next step of the process of creating the lab, and basically it is installing the Windows machine. And first of all, you can see that from the previous window, we have this Windows 10 client free that is popped here. We can start by powering it up. When we power up the virtual machine, you'll see a very similar process to what you would expect if you'll boot up a machine without an operating system to your environment. First of all, it looks for a network. It looks for a boot. Basically, it wants to load the operating system. There's none exist because it's a fresh machine. It looks for the CD to see if there's a Windows drive, Windows installation CD in the drive. It looks for the USB. It looks for everything, and then it defaults to the last option, which is network discovery, in order to be deployed by the network using Pixie. So right here, nothing happens because there is no Pixie boot enabled. You see, it says Pixie MOF exiting because it's not finding anything, and then basically operating system not found, and it dies out. So how do you install now that we reach this stage? First of all, you can select removable disk, right click on the virtual machine name. You can do it from here as well, I believe. Removable devices, and then you can see that we have this CD SATA connection not enabled. We'll start by going to settings. And you see here that it says it's set to use the physical drive, which makes no sense because my machine has no physical drive. And then the easiest way is to just select an ISO file that you need to obtain. I'm using currently Windows evaluation images. So here I have a Windows evaluation for the client, and I'll show you how to get them in another video. And then once I select the ISO, what will happen now is that the virtual hardware for the CD will mount the ISO disk as the CD of this virtual machine. I need to specify those two at the top. It needs to be connected, and it needs to be connected at power on, so it will be available when the machine is attempting the boot process. So once we do that, what now? Well, what you would expect in a normal physical disk, restart. So the easiest way to restart it is to click this little button, send Ctrl-Alt-Delete, it will reboot the machine. And you can see here now, the moment it boots, it has a disk, a Windows disk in the drive from the ISO that is simulated as a virtual CD. And then it will load the normal Windows installation as you expect. There's really not magic in installing Windows today. It's a very simple process. I'll walk you through a few of the nexes. The default next is usually okay. Go with English default. And then you can select the install now. It unpacks all the things it needs to do in order to get the installation rolling. And once it's done, you just need to select the disk that you're going to install it on and click next, and it will deploy. So accepting the license agreement, upgrading if it was an existing environment, it is not custom. Then you can see the actual disk that we configured, the 40 gigabyte the virtual disk. It sees it as the normal disk of the machine. You select next, and basically it runs the setup process. I'm gonna pause it here because it doesn't do anything interesting now, and we'll continue once it finishes. So a few moments later, it's finished the installation. As you can see here, we're at the beginning of the configuration of the Windows machine. Once it's configured, once the installation is done, you can select the region. Goes through the normal process like you open a new laptop or you install a fresh machine. And select the US. If you want to add another keyboard layout, I'll skip it, and then basically we're done. You can see this part. It says let's connect to your network. To finish setup, you'll need to connect to the internet. You see that there's no internet, which is interesting, but we don't really need to bother. In a moment we'll troubleshoot it further. Continue with limited setup. If you have internet, you can do a few things differently, but right now it doesn't really matter. I want to get everything as up and running, so we'll create a user called admin, and we'll put a super memorable password, confirm it. I'm gonna use a very hardened password, as you can guess. I'm gonna put a question, what's the, and Q, another question, and Q, a third question, and Q. And as you can see, I'm not really interested in recovering. Worst case, I'll install a fresh machine. Device across history, all kind of nice things. I don't really care. Get help from digital assistant. I'm going to decline it. Very interesting. Just best practice for me. I like to disable all the settings that are related to harvesting credentials and stuff and interesting things from my machine. I believe in no assistance from them and no compromise in security or privacy from me. at least to the best of our ability, even if it is a lab environment. So moving forward, you see it takes a few more seconds to get the machine ready. I am going to configure to verify, first of all, as you can see here in terms of network, you see the bridged, it goes with automatic bridge. I'm going to replicate the physical connection state just in case, and I'm going to validate what's going on in terms of the virtual network again, just so we'll be on the same page. I'm going to see that everything is still configured as expected and move from there. So the virtual switch is showing that the external connection is bridged to the Wi-Fi, and you can see that from the Wi-Fi perspective, I am indeed connected. And right now, once it will finish, we're going to look at the network setting and see how it works. So now that we've finished the installation, we're able to see the machine. As you can see, a box inside a box. This is the virtual environment. We'll go over to the file system. We'll see that we have this disk as 40 gigs or approximately 40 gigs of operating space. You can see that it takes about 19 or 17 gigs of disk for the Windows installation. You should bear that in mind if you plan to use smaller disks. And then from the network perspective, I'm going to open the network perspective just so you can see how it looks like. And as you can see from the network perspective, it takes the DHCP approach. That's the default settings. And if you look at the status, I'm going to show you that it's using basically 192.168.1.5 with a default gateway of 1.1 and then a DHCP and DNS gateway of 1.1. And this is the lab environment when it uses my home environment in terms of networking. I'm going to open the CMD so you'll see how it looks like. And basically, if we look in the IP setting, if I'll ping the gateway, it will connect normally like you would expect in this environment. If I'll go to the internet, it will go. So basically, I have full connectivity in the network. This machine that I've configured took an IP from my local subnet, from the physical hardware local subnet, my normal internet at home, and it took an IP from the router. It specified the gateway as the router, and it works almost seamlessly. So from your perspective, if you're using bridge mode, you install the machine, it gets the IP from the DHCP range of your environment, and you're good to go. You have a fully operational environment ready for the next step. Okay guys, so now that we have the installation done, there's a few extra steps that you would like to take in every virtual environment just to make sure your life is a lot easier in the long run and also to give you a lot of options that are very important in the virtual environment. These few steps are recommendations and you should take them in every machine that you add to your virtual environment. I believe they're very good best practices for any lab. So let's start with the easy one. So first of all, we would like to take a snapshot of the environment. A snapshot is a process that exists in virtualization that allows you to take a point in time and save it as a backup. So what we're going to do basically is right click on the machine name and then snapshot and then take a snapshot. Give it a name as like fresh installation and take it. Once you take the snapshot, which is a very fast, streamlined process, you have a place to go back to every time you make a change in the environment. So let's assume you broke the machine. You worked on it for a week and then you realize that you've destroyed something. You deleted a file by accident, you did something that you're not supposed to do, and you want to start over. So a snapshot allows you to do just that. You can restore to the snapshot and start over from that point in time. Obviously, during the lab process, you'll create multiple snapshots in stages. So let's say a clean, fresh installation is a snapshot that I always take, especially when I do all kinds of demos that are risky to the environment. Then afterwards, I'll take a snapshot once I finish installing all the prerequisites and all the software that I would like to use in the demonstration. And then a final snapshot maybe before the grand reveal of the next stage or running a malware or activating anything that might cause harm. So usually I take 3 snapshots in a given environment, and it's a very best practice to take one in a clean installation. The second part is basically enabling this environment to work with all the capabilities that virtualization offer. And there is a prerequisite for it. And this is basically where we're doing the installation of the VMware tools or the virtualization tools. So just to cover it, what is the VMware tools or what is the tools that you're using to install the virtualization? So first of all, you're running a software code inside the virtualization space. But until this point, Basically, the virtual hardware is not aware of anything that happens outside the virtual scope. It's able to receive all kinds of resources from the environment basically on virtual drivers, and it happens by basically masking and virtualizing the drivers to the guest operating system, so it doesn't know any better. But there's a lot of capabilities to be made if you install the special drivers for the VMware tools or the virtualization platform, like for example, copy and pasting files across the machines, using a shared clipboard between the machines, creating all kinds of ease of life like resolution modifications and all kinds of other things that are only available once you install those tools. So the step is, as I showed, you create the mount. Right now I already clicked it, so it says cancel, and then it appears as a virtual disk that you're able to install. You click on it, you install them, pretty much next finish, and once you install them, you're pretty much done. The first thing you'll notice once you install the VMware tools is the resolution shift. Basically, right now we're capped to the virtual resolution is supported by the generic driver. You can go with a complete or typical or custom. I'm just going to go with typical because it doesn't really matter for our use case. And there's all kinds of additional tools that you're able to use if you would like to go in detail. And once it installed this, basically we're adding virtual drivers and updating the virtualization drivers to handle a lot more advanced capabilities. And this enables us to do a lot of other things. So you saw for a moment the snap in the resolution, and voila, we got full screen. So right now, the immediate benefit is the resolution that is changed and allows you to do a lot of things. There's a lot of other advantages that I'll show you in other videos, but for now, you restart the machine in order for it to take effect. And now you're done with the things that you would like to do before you get everything rolling. And this is the final step from a clean, fresh install to have a machine ready for pretty much anything you would like to throw at it. And this is where we're going to wrap up this video.